welcome to another edition of the Women's Rugby Pod. I'm Johnnie Hammond and Rachael Burford is alongside as ever. How you doing, Burf?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, thanks, Johnny. Things go on. Been pretty busy with work this week and got the Sevens this weekend, so yeah, not too bad. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyable weekend from my point of view. Being in the commentary box for your semi-final. Well, look, we're going to get into your semi-final and of course the historic other semi-final between Bristol and Exeter a little bit later on in the show, and then we'll have all the news from around the world. And of course next week we'll have a full preview for the Premier 15s here in England. The final at Six Ways Worcester Warriors home on Friday the 3rd of June. We'll be in the company of an Exeter player and a Saracens player. But first of all, we didn't touch on it last week with Sunta. She was all part of, sort of suited and booted, all part of the bid and what have you. So probably wasn't appropriate to ask her. But got to reflect on these World Cups, and the next three World Cups are planned. Obviously, from sort of our point of view here in England, the fact that the World Cup 2025 will be here in the UK. We then go to Australia of 2029, the men's in 2027 in Australia as well. And then USA 2033, with the men's being a couple of years earlier as well. Just your reflection on that announcement.
Yeah, well, I think straight up dead excited about the 25. I think the opportunity that we have it's never been here before in terms of the opportunity that we have to grow the game. I think even going back to 2010, 15 years later on, the changes that this has had is remarkable. And I spoke about this before when I did. I was doing some commentary for the men's internationals in the autumn, and the anthems were going and all of that, and I took my headphones off just to listen, and it was the only time I've ever put myself in a moment to think this actually could happen in the women's game. I've never been, or never even believed or thought or believed that we could get there and achieve that, whereas I think it's really achievable to sell out Twickenham for a game, a women's rugby game. So I'm mega excited about what it can do for the sport globally, but quite biased to what it can do to rugby in England as well.
I mean, I think it's not a question of if, it's when. We've spoken off the back of the Six Nations, haven't we? The trajectory of women's rugby, and that's what everybody just starts talking about in terms of commercially. Oh, it doesn't get the money in the men's rugby. Of course it doesn't. It's in its infancy, but the projection of growth is beyond. So, hugely exciting, and as you say, 2010 was great fun, very different event. I thought it was staged where it was at the time in 2010. Sorry, Sports Park, and then obviously just for the Stoop for the other ones. But yeah, hugely exciting, and yeah, I also think a strong Australia is a really good thing for World Rugby. They've been in the doldrums, almost kind of went under, problems at the very, very top of Australian rugby, but to have back-to-back World Cups, there's plenty of sporting events going on in Australia around that time as well. So that's really good for Australia. And then, of course, this untapped, huge commercial market in the USA, which, if we are going to be a truly global game, then we have to attract the Americans, and I think that's a very wise move from World Rugby.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think the fact that they've both been announced, the next two, it allows for, it puts pressure on unions and everybody to invest in the game for what's to come, and England will do a magnificent job in 2025, and like any competition and any hosts, they want to do one over on what's just previously done. So I think I'm really excited about it going to America. I think, as you mentioned, it's such an untapped global market that we can really get into. I think that they've got so much more room for growth. And I think, they've got a kind of a plenty of time between now and then to really grow and its foundation and get its structures right and support its national team. Because you look at all their players individually who play in the Allianz Premier 15, and you think, oh, this has got the USA team's got to be right up there with the top 4 in the world. I think by that point, absolutely they will be. So yeah, I think it's really exciting, and I just love the fact that we've got this we've got these predictions of where it's going to be, when it's going to be, which is things that you and I crave and shout about, going, you know, what are the fixtures, where we're going to be, what's the venue, let's get the plans in place, let's make things happen now, and so I think that step's been huge as well, just, you know, the recognition to go, actually, we've got to announce these now. We can't wait a year out or 2 years out and then decide where we're going.
I agree, and I think you're right. You want to plan, don't you? You want to be able to look ahead and say, right, well, that's that. I don't think USA are there on any level at the minute in terms of hosting and that kind of stuff. Yeah, there was some pretty bad reports the last time that sort of England went over there, and there's sort of Super Series, but yeah, that gives us some time. It also puts pressure on Australia, who, you know, as we know, just lifted the Sevens title, but actually just put some structure into their women's national team. You know, the franchises are doing well. Melbourne Rebels, as we know, with Alana Thomas and all the rest of it, getting some contracts out there, but yeah, for to put some little bit of pressure on Australia is great. So, no, very, very positive news all round.
Hi, I'm Bill Beaumont, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
Let's move to the Premier 15 semi-finals. Burf, not quite such positive chat we're going to have. Saracens, Harlequins. First time we met at the semi-finals. It was a great occasion. Sun was out.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Really warm, wasn't it? We were luckily in the shading in commentary, but it was really warm. Saracens really trying. Bars open, a guy playing music, all the rest of it, live music, some food stalls and all the rest of it, good old crowd. So in terms of an occasion, it was great. On the field, for you, not so great for the quarters.
No, yeah, I think just the occasion was really good, like the build up and the atmosphere that they created, and running out into pitch and the fireworks and all of that. Like that to me is where the game should be every week, and putting on that kind of display, you know, because that's what draws people in, not just the rugby, but everything that's going on around it as well. So I think I don't want to just see that pulling out it for semi-finals. Like, let's try and get that into the league constantly and consistently. So yeah, they did a great job at hosting, and results wise, yeah, it was really tough for us as a squad. We genuinely believed that we had all we needed to win that game, and we prepared so well for that game. But that's the way that rugby goes sometimes. Sometimes it just doesn't work, and things that you're trying to put together doesn't happen, and things don't stick. And on the flip side of that, everything sticks for them. And it reminded me of I think it was at Northampton, where everything we tried just didn't work, and everything that they did, even if it was like players picking balls off their shoelaces, it was sticking. And it felt very much like that. And we just couldn't get any momentum in the game. And, you know, I think they slowed it down. That was part of their tactics, to really slow it down. And yeah, I think overall really disappointed. But even, you know, having said that, we had so many opportunities. And like I just mentioned, we just couldn't quite finish it. I mean, you look at the first, 5 to 10 minutes, we're all over them. We're in their 22, you know, Lange goes for the crossfield kick. Maybe if we just go through the hand, suddenly, you know, we're 7 points up from the start. And not that that's going to be the defining moment, of course, but that then just has a very different psyche for us as a group. And yeah, I just think every time we were losing a bit more, any momentum we tried to get, we lost it, or we then had a penalty or a knock on, that just drained our energy. And I think with that, it then drained your belief. It's like, oh God, we tried that, we'll try it again. It still didn't work. So, you know, I think as much as it was, they played brilliantly, like in terms of the set piece, and their pack were phenomenal. And basically that's all that they really did. They had a bit the power game, and to turn over the ball. You know, their entire pack were phenomenal, I think. And I think that's where the game was won and lost in and around the breakdown. I think there were some decisions that weren't fair from a refereeing point of view. But, you know, I'm sure that they'll be saying there's some that they didn't think were fair. And so, yeah, it's really tough because, like I started this conversation, we genuinely believe we had the group that could go on and win that game at the weekend and then push on again next week in the final. So, yeah, gutted, but I put my hand on my heart. I genuinely think this is going to be the making of Harlequins. I think it has to change how we've been doing things, I think, at the club in some areas. And the club are aware of this. We've had good conversations. You know, we've struggled this year with performances, with injuries, and it's like fitness. We haven't had enough resources in terms of coaching. And so, and look, this is all things that we've all spoken about beforehand. But I genuinely think, you know, times like this you have to find good from it. And I think that will come out.
So technically, there's a couple of things I want to pick up on that. In terms of the performance, it as you say, that opening 10 minutes, you got a couple of lineouts in their 22. We would expect Harlequins to motor over and grab minimum 5. And it just then seemed to slip away from you. Why couldn't you get a foothold? I mean, there was KG Mew was the only uncapped player in that starting 15. Yeah, there's a huge amount of experience, huge amount of quality. Majority of 10 starters been there to the final, done it before. Why couldn't you wrestle momentum back?
Well, I think we just couldn't build phases. And then we didn't work hard enough when in the moments that mattered. So once we had built those times when we did build enough phases to put them under pressure, we then didn't work hard enough to then execute an opportunity that we had created by retaining the ball. And so you think of all that energy that's then expended, and then we turn over the ball. You know, Marley Packer had a field day, May Campbell, Poppy Cleal, and you know that steals momentum, and then suddenly it's back in their hands. And the way that they played was tight, direct, kick. So you know, then they're in a position where we're back under pressure. We're in our 22. We've got to try and run out, or we've got to kick out, and you know. And they slowed the game down. That you know, they took a knee every 2 minutes, and Nicky O'Donnell allowed that. And you know, we had all the momentum around the 22. You know, moments out from the line, and you know, Nicky O'Donnell stops the game because there's an injury to someone's knee, and then the player continues to play on. You know, so all those things, they really build up and they continue to build up, and then you have frustration, and then all of a sudden we're trying to grab hold of the game, but we've got a team that's stopping that, but then also you know, them taking breakages, you know, every 5 minutes, players going down. And look, I'm sure some of them are legit, but at the same time that really stifles the game that we want to play, which is we're all about high, fast tempo, playing exciting rugby, trying to move the ball around. But we weren't able to do that. So that then, you know, maybe that's a big find out for us that, you know, when we can't get that kind of momentum, what's our plan B? What's the next route that we've got to try in order to change that momentum?
And look, it's very painful. I'm sure, because I agree with you. You know, you and Sunta both said you guys will get to the final, and I guess some of your feelings is some of frustration, because you know the talent is there and you're able to do it. Sarries weren't going to do anything different, were they? Because they lost a psychological battle against you in the final last year, and we know Sarries, they hardly ever lose 2 games back to back, and I just felt they were, from the warm up, they were just right on their mettle. I think you're absolutely right. Marley Packer, I mean, it's just in the form of her life, simple as that. Poppy Cleal was outstanding, despite sort of would appear being on a sort of half a calf. May Campbell, don't know why she doesn't have more international recognition. I think there's a wider issue with players going down. Injuries, get them off the field. Treat a player off the field. Let the game continue as a spectacle. But look, that's a wider thing. And I know you're getting in the referee's ear and saying let's speed this game up, but you knew it was going to happen. It was probably a frustration that you couldn't sort of get beyond that. And then for me, it's just started to. Lucy Packer goes for a box hit, first one in the entire game, gets charged down. You try that.
Year.
Year. I was trying to sort of be kind. And you just start doing things, but that's semi-final pressure, right? And for a 30-10 loss, I thought Saracens were very good and have the bit between their teeth. The other thing for me is, as you say, you had a season and it's been utterly truncated with a lot of injuries. Yourself, Jess Breach. Other clubs aren't any different. Don't get me wrong. Saracens themselves have had their own injuries, but Jess Breach, Amy Cockayne, Sarah Beckett, yourself, Brooks, Katie Mew, a lot of injuries, and the season's been stop-start. You finish in fourth. Saracens started season 7 wins, lose to you 8 wins until Exeter. And I just they finished top of the table by 11 points, and as a sort of chap who's not wonderfully keen on playoffs. I love the excitement and the drama and the broadcast of it, but a league is a league. It's the most consistent team, and they are. And again, do you think that consistency throughout the season played a bit of a part? Those sort of muscle memories and psychological memories that you can pull back on, that we have strung together victories here, whereas possibly it's been more sort of spike in terms of your performance and therefore results.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, our season's definitely been inconsistent with, and injuries. Like you say, everybody has them. When Saracens came to play us, they didn't have, Poppy Cleal, Zoe Harrison at that time. So, I definitely think that throughout the year, I think we've always said that, sometimes you're gonna have those losses and you need to be able to bounce back from them, or to win really tight games, come back from things. And, I'm not sure that we've bounced back particularly well. And maybe it's a mental thing for us about how we bounce back from tough games, tight games, or, you look at Saracens, how they've been consistent in their winning, but also how they win sometimes. They've got that in them that I think everybody would want in a bottle and to be able to take home and sprinkle all over their own teams. So that kind of belief is something that seems to be ingrained in them. But our season, it's just been inconsistent. I think a lot of people didn't even think that we might even make the top 4. We'd been kind of written off, and fairly maybe, because of our inconsistencies in games and performances. But as I say, I think you have to use this as motivation, and you have to use this as, this is the first time we've never been in a final. And I think that got to us. I think that the thought of not getting to a final, and then when it starts to slip away from you in a game, then you're suddenly just focused on what an outcome is. And we all know if you focus on an outcome, that can generally pull you away from your process and your belief. And I definitely think, when we came out second half, the charge down, and then which then resulted in a penalty, kicked a corner, then a try. And suddenly we've just been in the changing room saying about how we're going to turn this around. And now we're under our sticks again, so it's, I would say the confidence comes from that consistency over the season, coming back from bounces. I know I've gone around the houses and said to say that, but yeah, I think, they finished top of the league, and they got their home semi for a reason. We got just into the top 4, and so I think it definitely has a lot to do with it. Yeah,
those that Poppy Cleal try and those championship minutes, Joe Schmidt, I think, famously called them 5 minutes before half time, 5 minutes afterwards, and May Campbell scored after was that 4 minutes into the second half, something like that. That was the game done for me. That was the time to grab the momentum, and as you say, they come away with it. But it's massively fine margins, isn't it? At this level, it's hugely fine margins. A bitterly disappointed. You spoke there just about the club and learning from this season. Jeremiah obviously moves now to the academy. He has some changes in the coaching, but I mean, he's been kind of a one-man band, and to go from Karen Finley and Gareth Street to Jared by himself, he's been doing a lot of the legwork himself. What changes are going to, if you are able to let us know?
Yeah, I think just to know, like Gerard, literally, like you say, was a one-man band. We had Andy Rees-Jones that had been helping with the forwards. Adam Jones, it also came in, but it's not the same as having full-time coaches. And look, moving forward, the club are really investing in the programme even more so. We'll have a full-time head coach, a full-time assistants coach, and depending on who that head coach is, predominantly where their strengths are, then we'll look at what assistant can complement that. Also, we're having a new S&C. So again, there's going to be a lot of changes, shake-ups, different philosophies and ways of doing things, and the club they've got a really robust recruitment of how they're doing this. It's the same way that they got Tabai Mason in for the men's. So really looking forward to, obviously they've done the shortlist now and they're talking to the shortlists, and I'm really excited about who's to come in, because I think the game now is proven that these are jobs that you want to have in the game, men or women's, the top flight jobs. And I think, that in itself, the fact that we'll have 2 full-time coaches, because even when Karen was here, she was off running London basically and being with us. So the fact that you're going to have an extra coach that's full-time and available to the players and to the programme is huge. And Andy Rees-Jones will still be around, so that's great to also keep his experience. But I think there'll be a bit more crossover as well, a bit more support. Tabs has done so many sessions with us defensively down at the gymnastics session, so I think that will still also become a bit more consistent. And I think just getting it ready for the pre-season and start of the season. Last year we went into pre-season, into the start of the league without a forwards coach, and that came in late, and then that all changed again. So it was like we were chasing our tail a little bit. And I think that was probably, the fact that the club had done the double, and we're probably all high on that, and engrossed in that, and that is what it is. But they've put a really robust recruitment strategy in, and so we're definitely going to get the right person in. And that person might not be able to start straight away. They might not. But what we want to do is make sure that we wait for the right person and not just feel that because somebody's ready and available if they're not the right candidate.
I was going to say, why are you going on holiday over pre-season then, are you? Who knows, ladies?
I can confirm I'm not going to be the next head coach.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Well, that's one less person I'm competing with. Good. No, excellent. Look, we're dwelling on it, but I think hopefully the listeners agree. Having you being a captain and gone through what the club has gone through last season and this, I think I'm fascinated to hear sort of behind the scenes, and that's what having on the podcast and having a podcast is all about. So apologies, we're sort of dwelling slightly. Come on then. You thought it was a red card, the shove to the ground.
Yeah, I do. Well, I don't know. I think it was a yellow card. And I think if you look a frame before that, it's actually direct. It's in the tackle. Rosie also gets shoulder to head, which I don't think the TMO looked at. It frustrates me because I think there's too many of these incidences. And look, I'm not saying that Harlequins hasn't been on that side of it, but I think there's too many in the women's game that we don't referee properly. I think and I don't know if that's because, I don't know why that is. It's, that would have been, if Alev Kelter was given a yellow card, then it would have been a red. And that's that. I'm not saying that would have won us the game, but that's pretty significant. 35 minutes maybe left on the clock, I think it was. But yeah, I see it week in, week out. I think that and I'm basing this on what I see in the men's game. How many yellow cards are in the men's game, how many red cards are in the women's game, and or any cards in the game. They're miles apart. And are we technically that much better?
No, but I called it live. Yeah, I think it's very.
What did you say live? What did you say live?
At very most, it's not my when I'm commentating. It's not my place to particularly give an opinion. That's for the colour commentator, and that's for Rocky, who plays for Saracens. So again, slightly difficult. I didn't see it as an obvious out and out yellow. I'll be totally honest with you. I didn't see the shoulder to head, even on replays. But I also think they did have two yellows, didn't they? And I think the officials are there. I think Nicky O'Donnell generally is one of the better referees. I do think the standard refereeing in the Premier 15s it isn't great unless you've got one or two of the top referees. But it didn't stand out for me as a. I think the game was gone because what you were.
But Johnny, I'll just challenge you on that because they shouldn't, and not that instance, but it shouldn't be a for a red card or a yellow card.
Of course not.
That's my point, is that I think we're missing so many instances where they're subtle and we don't always have the TMO to be able to look back on that. And that's the thing. That's the thing in the game. In order to protect the players better, that's got to be the next level.
Well, that's a different conversation. When I say to be a red card, no, I mean that from a commentary point of view, because you are speaking live while watching, and in your periphery vision, there's little triggers you do. Right, I've got to think back at that, look back at that, talk about that, and it's a right. Normally with a sort of any sort of incident like that, you're in your mind, you're like, well, but I couldn't agree with him more. I think it's TMOs at every ground, but every ground is not equipped to do that in terms of screens and that kind of stuff. And then we have this ridiculous scenario of screens on the side of the pitch and all the rest of it, and it just slows the game down even more. Look, sadly, I've not reached the final. That's the end of the journey for Harlequins this year. Saracens go on. Outstanding from Poppy Clear to Marley Packer, as you say. I thought Hoddy Aitchison was very, very good as well. And this is without Zoe Harrison. That 50-22 was something else. Sarah McKenna kind of played well. Corrigan fizzing around as well. So well done to Saracens. And of course, they meet Exeter, who got past Bristol in the other semi-final.
I'm Kate Zachary, and you are listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
Yeah, Bristol against Exeter at Sandy Park. Exeter finishing second in the table. And of course, they met last week as well, which Exeter Chiefs had won narrowly as well. And this was narrow, but not quite as narrow. 28-24. Hope Rogers with a couple of tries. Lynn van der Velden with another one. And Jenny Duncan right to the death, didn't she, with Gabby Cantorna getting the conversion. A real seesaw of a game, wasn't it? And so a game almost of two comebacks.
Yeah, I think we were still at Saracens at that time, and you could see it was 19-0 or 21-0. It was like, they're just going to get steamrolled here. Which I think people probably thought it would have gone that way anyway. But then what a comeback from Bristol. And I think what they did, they didn't stop playing. They still went out to try and play, as opposed to try and win a game, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't. But and even when, all they needed was a penalty they then got eventually, was it 17-19? So all they needed was a penalty, but they still kept trusted how they wanted to play, hitting their pods, playing out the back, moving the ball to the edge. And then, ultimately getting themselves a penalty and knowing that the biggest strength of theirs is going to be their line out weapon. And you would have thought for all money that was it. And then again, so from that kickoff after they scored, Exeter make the error, don't they? So then it's Bristol ball. And you think, right, they literally got this in the bag. All they've got to do is retain the ball for a couple of minutes or kick long, put them under pressure to play out. And then, well, what about that for quick turnover? What is it, 3 minutes on the clock, kick to the corner, and you'd think it's going to be a driving maul, but nope, the winger steals it.
Unbelievable, wasn't it? Yeah. Thought they'd come back, didn't they? Bristol 24-21 it was. Hannah West with a couple of tries, Amber Reid, Phoebe Murray. Amber Reid with the conversion, Kira Bevan and Phoebe Murray with the tries. I agree, because we saw Bristol dip, didn't we? Kind of that third quarter of the season, and we just wonder whether they'd run out of steam, of course, having started so well. I agree with you. I like the fact that they stuck to their guns and wanted to play, and they had two really key players. Like we say, injuries across the board, but Ro Marston was unavailable for the game, wasn't she, with a ban, and Jazz Joyce had undergone surgery for the bigger picture of a World Cup, and you can't deny her that. But yeah, no, fair play to Bristol. For them, now the dust settled, I suspect we'll see that as a very successful campaign.
Oh, hugely. I think, where were they last season? It was something like maybe 8th, 9th. I think they hardly won any games, whereas this year, they've been one of the top 4 teams right from the start. They've pushed every top side this year, having almost beaten Saracens on the first occasion, beating Exeter. And so, yeah, I think they'll look back and they'll be really proud of their performance. And I think the other thing is around, their squad hasn't massively changed, but what obviously Dave Ward's been able to go there and implement and get his team all on the same page and playing as well as they have done. I think it's been a remarkable season. I don't know where they finished in the table, but I suspect they've climbed a number of places from where they were last season.
Eighth last season with 4 wins, to obviously 3rd this year with 11 wins. I mean, that is hugely significant. They will cite injuries and what have you last year, and I think the type of players that Abby Ward and Leanne Infante still struggle with that.
She didn't play?
No, I just think generally through the season, they are big characters, and they were big signings, and they have to be given some credit in terms of driving things forward as well. I know, sort of Abby's leadership and around the breakdown and what have you. It's a good little team in tandem, isn't it? But yeah, fair play to them. This spirit and courage of Exeter, though, whether you like the Harlem Globetrotters aspect of their team and bringing players from all over the world, and behind that is a raft of sort of local younger players. But whether you like that or not, there's an incredible team spirit to come back and score 3 minutes before the death.
Yeah, I think whatever your opinions are of how the team's been formed, you've got to credit what they've done on the pitch. The performance was, the first 40 minutes was outstanding. And I don't know what was said at half time for them to probably sit back and, probably like everybody that was watching is thinking they're just going to steamroll over this. But yeah, to not give up, and, the scenes of Tony Rogue and Susie Appleby at the end, they desperately want, like we all do. And to see how much it meant to them to finish in the end, that was pleasing to see. And I think there's just so much quality in their team, and they've got such big game players that can Kate Zachary, she can literally play on the wing with the speed that she has and how she can just turn it on, and you end up feel like you've got marking 2 players when for her just to be a single player. And So yeah, I think they've got something quite unique as a squad. You know, when you and I've been in teams that are like that, where you've got people from all over the place. You're a bit of a nomad, and sometimes that's what really galvanizes you and makes you really tight. And
Agreed.
you know, a lot of them are away from family, friends, and their family is those players that are on the pitch. So, and that goes deep. And you could see that in the end, where, you know, they just had total belief and bought into going for it. And yeah, they got their rewards. And, you know, I think they're going to really challenge Saracens next week.
Come on then, one word, and you got 1 second to answer. Who wins the final?
Exeter.
Boom! Don't worry, Saracens fans, because if you look back at Rachael Burford's predictions of who would be in the top 4 and who would get to the final, you're okay. You're in safe hands.
Hey, if I'm only allowed one word, you're only allowed one word.
Now, if I predicted...
who are you predicting?
I don't know. We've got to move on. Time is precious. Rugby.
Come on,
Rugby.
one word.
Rugby.
One word.
Rugby.
Don't bottle it. Don't be that person, Johnny. You're bigger and better. You're more intelligent than that.
Saracens.
Done. That's it. Nope. One word. I said done. Moving on. Nope.
They
No.
are so hurting from that 54-12
No.
loss. Yeah, don't bet against the champs, former champs.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, all right, for another, yeah.
Exactly. Well, I'll take it. All right. I'll take
another
it.
8 days, you take it, absolutely. Time for some news. On Saturday, the Sarah Beanie Cup final was held in Scotland, the pinnacle of the club season. And it is Hillhead Jordan Hill, who are the champions. Congratulations to everyone at the club. They beat Watsonians 10-5 at Murrayfield. Yes, as you say, well done to them.
At the weekend, the HSBC 7 Series hit Toulouse in France. Oui. Australia already had wrapped up the series, but it was New Zealand who beat Australia in the final. The reverse final result from Langford, 21-14 was the final score. Ireland, a side very much on the rise, finished 4th, losing to Fiji in the bronze medal match. Rona Lloyd was in sparkling form, helping her team to finish 9th place. England finishing bottom of the pile in 12th. Despite some spirited performances, including beating England, Brazil have finished in the relegation spot of 11th.
In Spain, the Division de Honor is at semi-final stage at the weekend. El Salvador take on AMPU Orzidia, and Zambodia are at the stage 2, but can't find any news on their opponents. And I have been digging around. The Alcobendas Cisneros game doesn't seem to have been played, but Santabiana have gone through. So, yeah, don't quite know. We will keep digging. But those games, or that game, is on the weekend. We'll bring you the results next week.
And in South Africa, it was round 5 of the top club competition, the Premier Division. Boland Dames lost to Blue Bulls 24-5. Western Province lost to Border Ladies 19-11. Sharks versus EP Quins was postponed. Border Ladies remain top with the Blue Bulls in 2nd and Western Province in 3rd. This week, round 6, Blue Bulls host Western Province, Golden Lions travel to Border Ladies, and EP Queens entertain Bordeaux Dames.
Indeed, they do. And over in France this weekend, it is semi-final time in the Elite 1 Feminine. Stade Toulousien take on Stade Bordelais, and ASC Roquenard host Blagnac Sporting Club Rugby. Just going to finish out with a couple of shout-outs. Patricia Garcia, or should we say Patricia Garcia? I'm not looking forward to saying that like that for 80 minutes in the final. Anyway, she's calling time on her career, 14-year career. Saw a player all around the world. She's played in Japan, New Zealand, all over the place. An icon of Spanish rugby. 284 appearances for her country in 7s and 15s. 2 World Cups for 15s, 2 World Cups for 7s, plus a Rio Olympics. And at club level, she won top flight titles in Spain and in France. And of course, could add to that with an English title. Oh, she won runner-up with Waikato as well. So yeah, she really has been there and done it. What a fabulous lady as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've had many battles on a sevens pitch and a 15s pitch with her. She's really is a credit to the sport. She puts absolutely everything into what she does, and you know, it's a sad day for English rugby because she's still such an incredible, talented individual. But I know that she'll kick on and she'll want to do more good in the game. And I hope this isn't the last we see of her. I hope she keeps her boots on in a coaching format or gets in the administration. You know, she's a very intelligent woman, and yeah, I definitely want to see her staying in the game. So I'll be reaching out to her to make sure she does.
Good stuff, because rugby can't afford to lose people like Patricia Garcia.
Exactly.
Absolutely brilliant. RPA Awards, Rugby Players Association here in England last night. Katie Daly-McLean, MBE, got inducted to the Hall of Fame. Well done, Kitty. Sadia Kabir was named the Premiership Player of the Season, and Marley Packer won the England Player of the Season. No qualms there.
And just a big welcome and shout out to Vicky Alexandra, community coach from Cobham RFC in Surrey. But also she's just been made a VP at Surrey Rugby. So huge congratulations, and we love having you on the Women's Rugby Pod.
Yeah, great to have you on board, Vicky. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and thank you to her and to Tom for all your work behind the scenes. Burf, chin up. Looking forward to seeing you probably at the final. We look forward to next week when we will do a full preview of that final. Saracens against Exeter.
Until next time. Bye, Johnny.